All right. Number one, solving the equation. There are a couple ways you can do this. In the first one, what I have done right here is I've went ahead and I've switched the equation to move the variable to the other side. You don't have to do that. I've got my variable on the left side right here, but you don't have to put the variable on the left side. You can put the variable, just keep it as it is. When you're solving an equation, you do the opposite. Since you're dividing by 2 here, then you're going to multiply both sides by 2. That should be a gimme problem on your quiz. Problem number 2, there are a couple ways that you can do this one. It talks about Tanya wanting to buy a computer. So I'm going to show you how to do it with an equation and show you how to do it just using the word problem itself. It says the computer costs $375. She's already saved $75, so she already has $75 of that. So I subtracted to get how much she owes, which is $300. She's saving $25 a week. So what I did was took 300 divided by 25, which tells me it's going to take her 12 more weeks to get that $300 she still has to pay for it. Now, if you did this using an equation, this is a linear equation. Y equals mx plus b, where y is the total amount she needs, which is $375. M is my slope. It says she's saving $25 per week. Anytime you see that word per, that is a slope. That is an important term. Plus b. B is your y-intercept, or the amount that you start with. In this case, she started with $75. That's how much she already had. You go through, work the equation the same way as we did the other one. The only difference is I'm putting it in as equation. So I know the total amount's $375. I'm working the equation backwards. Remember we said you do the opposite order of operations, which means you do addition and subtraction first. So here I subtracted 75. Then I have to get rid of the 25 by dividing, and I still get 12. Again, one of the things we talk about in math, doing the same thing in different ways. I don't care which way you do it. All right, problem number 3. Again, just solving an equation. However, one of the reasons we like this textbook is for a question like this, because on your state test, this is kind of what we expect. You're not always going to be solving equations. In this case, it's just asking you what would be the first step. The first step here is you've got to get rid of that 5. The reason, that is a grouping symbol. That division bar groups everything that's on top together. So to get rid of it, you got to get rid of the 5 here. The way you get rid of the 5 is by multiplying both sides by 5. That is your first step. It is not adding the 18. If you put adding 18, that is wrong because all that's grouped on top. Question number 4, again, another equation. This time I decided not to move my variable. I left the variable on the right-hand side, which is fine. It doesn't matter. These have decimals, but you're getting to use the calculator, so all you do is just work through. So in this case, I subtract because that is a positive 2.5. Subtract 2.5, then divide by 1.2 and get negative 4.75. Again, that's a gimme problem. Number 5. Number 5 relates to something that we call factor labeling or rate conversions. You're going to do factor labeling in chemistry. It's about 50% of chemistry is doing nothing but factor labeling. We call it rate conversions here, or unit conversions. In this case, it tells me the perimeter of the square is 48. Well, since it's a square, I know all the sides are the same, so each side is 12. So I get each side there is 12. What the problem told me was that one side of the square is 30.48 centimeters. One side, not the whole square. That's the reason I had to find each side here in inches. So to find how much a side is, how much a centimeter is in terms of inches, then I have to divide 30.58 by 12 inches. When I do that, I get 2.54. So that means there's 2.54 centimeters in an inch. All right. Problem number 6. Problem number 6 goes back to right before break, we did some similar figures and proportions. Solve proportions, we cross multiply. They don't give you a picture here, but I drew pictures for the building and the shadow and then the tree and the shadow. What I do know about this problem before I ever solve it is because the building is shorter, or the shadow for the building is shorter than the shadow for the tree, then that means the tree's taller. Because the only thing that can have a bigger shadow is something that's taller. Now, what I do is I set up my proportion. In this case, I decided to do tall over shadow is tall over shadow. I could have done building over tree is building over tree. Remember when we did proportions, they just have to match up. Different ways you can write them. So my proportion here was 15, that's the tall, that's the height of the building, over 6, that's the shadow of the building. X is what we're looking for, how tall the tree is, over 9, the shadow of the tree. Cross multiply, get your equation and solve, you get 22.5. No rate conversions here that you have to do. They're all in the same units. This goes back to something we did before break, using proportions. Is a rate conversion, or like we said for chemistry, is factor labeling. You're changing liters to gallons. They told you there are 0.26 gallons in 1 liter. You're treating these like fractions. Fractions, I can cancel anything with the top with anything in the bottom. So what I've got here is I got 2.75 liters. That means I need the word liter on the bottom. That way liters cancel. Gallons is now left on top, and that's what I wanted my answer in. All I do is I take the numbers on top, multiply the numbers on bottom, which in this case is just 1, multiply, and then simplify. This one said round to the nearest hundredth. Nearest hundredth is the second decimal place. Problem number 8, another factor label or rate conversion. It says you went 125.5 miles in 150 minutes. It wants the units in kilometers per hour. So the first thing I do is need to get rid of my miles. So if I have miles on top, I need miles on bottom. It said 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers. Now I have kilometers as my unit. It said kilometers per hour. I was in minutes when I started. That means I need to get rid of minutes. Minutes is on the bottom. That means I need minutes on the top. There's 60 minutes in 1 hour. Now my minutes cancel. Now I'm left in hours. So my units are kilometers per hour. Multiply all your numbers on top together. Multiply all your numbers on bottom together. That gives you a fraction. Divide that on the calculator. Since this was multiple choice, it said choose the most approximate, which was C. Problem number 9, which one is the most precise? Precision has to do with the most decimal places if they're in the same units. These were all in inches. So I looked for the one with the most decimal places, which was C. It had 3 decimal places. Number 10, does each of the following numbers have 3 significant digits? So again, this would be a type of question you would see on your state test. This is what's called a multiple response. It's one question that has multiple responses to it based on the parts. This is where you need to go to page 32 in your textbook. Look at your chart that explains significant digits. Look at the examples. The only one that is letter B. It has 3 significant digits. Zeros after the decimal place, after significant digits count. Zeros after a decimal but in front of another significant digit do not count. So this one only has 2 significant digits. Any zeros after a significant digit that are to the left of a decimal, so the decimal place is here, these zeros right here do not count. So again, you need to look at the chart on page 32 in your book. Problem Again, an equation to solve, just follow the opposite order of operation. In this case, multiply both sides by 6. Number 12, another, again, this is a grouping symbol. So you got to get rid of the grouping symbol. So the way you do that, so this is a grouping symbol. Again, you got to get rid of it. The way you get rid of it, you got to get rid of the 2. So you got to multiply both sides by 2. After that, you're just solving a normal equation. Number 13. Number 13 is similar to problem 2 on the practice test, or practice quiz, sorry. Again, multiple ways you can solve it. In this case, you already pay $45 right up front. This one's similar to problem number 2, just kind of working backwards from it. Make sure you pay attention to the details of the problem, what each thing represents. Number 14, again, this is a rate conversion or a unit conversion, factor labeling. It tells you initially in the problem, it draws a picture, the measures are 4 centimeters and 2 centimeters, but it wants the answer in meters. So what I had to do was take the scale they gave me, which is 1 centimeter is 1.5 meters. So I have to change each of these measures. So I had to change 4 centimeters to meters. So again, I had to invert this conversion. Centimeters goes on the bottom, so it'll cancel with the centimeters on top. 4 times 1.5 is 6. Get each of the measures. To get perimeter, you add all the sides. So 6 plus 3 plus 6 plus 3 gives me 18 for the perimeter. Pay attention to questions like that because it won't always be perimeter. They may say area or something different. Question. It told you went 150 miles in 4 hours. You need to reduce that. That gives you 37.5 miles per hour. That is your rate or your slope. If you look on the graph, they went by ones on the x-axis even though they skipped units. So I filled those in yellow. On your y-axis, they went by 15s for each line. Again, they skipped. I filled those in yellow. Plot your points. You're not going to be exact. This is 37.5, so I got as close as I could. Again, not everybody's is going to look exactly the same. Question 16 refers back to the table that you had on your handout. It says which one's more precise at 6 years old or 8 years old. And in this case, it was 8 because it had more decimal places. Question 17. Important part of this question, it says which height. So you have to write the height. Do not write the age. So you're looking in the Y values of the table. The one that had the most significant digits was the 41.25. It had 4 significant digits. It's also the one that went the most decimal places, which was question B. How many significant digits? 4. Question 18, very similar. Which height has the least number? That is 40. It only has 1 significant digit. This 0 does not count as a significant digit because it's to the left of the decimal place. Then question 19 refers to the table. It says Tanya's mother is 1.5 times as tall as Tanya was when she was 6. When Tanya was 6, she was 45 inches. So her mother is 45 times 1.5, which is 67.5. But it said, put it in the correct number of significant digits. Well, Tanya's was 2 significant digits. Therefore, her mother's has to be in 2 significant digits, which in this case you would round and get 68.